Hello, everybody. We're here to communicate with the public updates on recent homicides that have taken place within the last few months, and the most recent that just took place just last night. These homicides involving firearms have shaken up our sense of safety in the city of Holyoke, and I thought it'd be important to do this press conference to reassure the public's safety. I have here District Attorney Gulluni, who will report on these crimes, on the investigations and where that were initiated and on the success of those investigations. And momentarily, we'll hear from our police chief of the Holyoke Police Department, who leads in our community implementing mitigation efforts to de-escalate criminal behavior. But before we hear from them, I just wanted to share a few things. For as long that I've grown up here in our city of Holyoke, our city has always been a place of hope. It's always been a place of opportunity. We take care of people who are down and out on their luck here in the city. My family growing up benefited from Holyoke's compassion. And although I take pride in who we are as a community and will continue to partner with organizations and invest in those important programs and resources that help build people and minimize criminal behavior, I do also understand that this level of compassion does indeed come with certain quality of life challenges that we have to face and that we're dealing with every day. We can't let these challenges make us lose sight of who we are as a community, not just as a community, but as Hoyokers. This just means we need to work harder, smarter, more creatively to help the people that are dealing with mental health issues, addiction issues, access to jobs and housing, and other factors. We do need justice. Justice isn't dispensed only by courts and prosecutors. I'm talking about social justice, which is the business of the entire community. Our common aim is not only bringing lawbreakers to justice, which we do well, and again, we'll hear from the district attorney, but ensuring that our community strives for a just society where addiction and mental health illness and other contributors towards social determinants of health are addressed, and addressed with compassion and consistency in the interest of creating a safer and more humane Holyoke. I'm committed to that. Our law enforcement agencies are committed to that. Not just our law enforcement agents here locally, but around the region in Western Mass. And I know countless of organizations in our city that are committed to that. So let's not forget that and keep working together to achieve our common goals. I do want to thank DA Gulluni for stepping in at a moment's notice for this press conference to share information to the public and the hard work his staff does for the people of Hampden County. Thank you. I also want to give a big thank you to the members of the Holyoke Police Department and their relentless efforts every single day, showing up to work and contributing to the team in our efforts to build on the very issues that I just explained. Our citizens can take pride in knowing that these organizations are indeed working together and getting the job done for the greater good of our public and for your safety. At this time, I'll introduce District Attorney Gulluni.
Good afternoon, and thanks to Mayor Garcia for his leadership and for his comments. We talked last night in the wake of the city's 5th murder and thought it important to stand before the media and the public and address public safety in the city of Holyoke. And in particular, that my office and the city of Holyoke, and in particular the Holyoke Police Department, are working diligently on the front end to ensure that people are safe here. And we're also working on these tragic incidents, including last night's murder. The city of Holyoke has seen 5 murders this year in 2022. I will tell you that 3 were in July, 2 have been recently here in the month of September. 4 of those 5 murders, with the exception of yesterday's, have been the product of arrests. So 4 of the 5 of those, in the partnership with the Holyoke Police Department and the Massachusetts State Police and my office and members of my office, have teamed up to solve 4 of those 5 murders. And I can tell you, without being terribly specific for obvious reasons, we're making significant progress on the horrible, tragic death last night here in the city of Holyoke. So I commend the Holyoke Police Department and its detectives. I commend the Massachusetts State Police who are attached to my office, and members of my office who team up when these incidents happen to work together collaboratively to make sure that justice is brought for the city of Holyoke, but also for a victim who's lost his or her life and for that victim's family. That is incredibly important and honorable work. And I can tell you right now, the Holyoke Police Department serves this city very well under the leadership of Chief Dave Pratt and Mayor Josh Garcia. I'm proud to work with them. I'm proud to collaborate with them. And I thank the Massachusetts State Police as well for working hand in hand with the Holyoke Police Department. Public safety is an issue we're all concerned about. And it's been my belief, it's been something I've said across this county, that every neighborhood, every citizen deserves to be safe, deserves to feel safe. And on the other hand, no one deserves to hear gunshots at night. No one deserves to see crime scenes outside their front window. No child deserves to walk by a drug dealer on the corner. And I think if you went in any neighborhood in this city and you talked with folks, they would tell you the same thing. They respect their police. They appreciate their police. And that public safety becomes a larger issue, becomes an economic development issue, an opportunity issue. And if what Mayor Garcia and Council President McGee are going to do is going to be successful, they've got to have public safety. They've got to have a quality police department, which they have here with Holyoke. And people have to feel safe in order to go to school, in order to go to work, in order to start a business here in the city of Holyoke. And the police department has to be empowered and entrusted by its elected officials, and it has that, but also by its citizenry. So irresponsible comments by elected officials regarding what the Holyoke Police Department does, which is totally inconsistent with all the evidence, is frankly irresponsible and contemptible. And I'm speaking of comments that were made recently around the issue of ShotSpotter, which is a technology the city of Springfield, for instance, has used for upwards of 15 years. It's never been characterized by anybody as something, as a tool of inequality, as something that unfairly polices black and brown communities. Quite the contrary. It's a tool that police use. It's a tool that my office uses to solve gun crimes, to respond more quickly to victims who are victims of gun violence. It's a tool used to suppress gun violence in our most vulnerable neighborhoods. So anything else, again, is inconsistent with the evidence, is irresponsible, is unreasonable. So I stand here today in partnership with Mayor Garcia and the public safety of the city of Holyoke, in partnership with Chief Pratt and the Holyoke Police Department, and in partnership with our collaboration with the Massachusetts State Police and my office for public safety. And we're working very hard on these tragic incidents, and we're working very hard holistically in the programs that my office puts on and what Mayor Garcia talked about, with what we're doing for young people, for children in Holyoke, what we're doing to support people suffering from substance use disorder. We're working very hard to give people opportunities to avoid crime. But public safety is important, good policing is important, and we stand here to represent that and to support that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. DA. My apologies, Mr. President. Also with me is our Council President, Todd McGee. I now want to introduce Police Chief David Pratt.
Thank you all for coming. I want to thank the mayor and the DA for giving me this opportunity as well to assure the public that the Holyoke Police Department is going to work tirelessly to deal with the gun violence here in the city. We are going to do what we need to do. We have, as the mayor mentioned, we have many programs and wraparound services here for people, but we are just as equally capable of dealing with gun violence and what it brings to the city. And we are I'm very thankful to the mayor who supports the ShotSpotter system coming here. That's going to only increase our ability to do that work. It's gonna help us with the investigations afterwards. I also want to speak about how the DA brought up about solving the crimes and how we do that collaboratively with his state police unit. I can't speak enough about the collaborations we have. the DA being one of our strongest partners, and his unit that comes here every time we have gun violence and supports us, helps us, and helps us to solve these crimes, because these type of crimes have no business here in the city of Holyoke, and we are going to do everything we can to stop that. We have partnerships with other agencies as well, federal agencies, task forces. We are going to do what we need to do to let the criminal element know that we won't stand for this type of violence. The citizens deserve that. They're going to see it and they're going to get it. That's my promise to the city. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief.
Questions?
Mr. Mayor, you mentioned earlier that you're all going to address mitigating factors that lead to this kind of violence. Can you share with us some of those mitigating factors?
So there's no question when you talk about victims that are struggling with addiction, folks that are struggling with keeping a home and affording one, people who don't have access to jobs and other potential social determinants of health factors that can lead to an individual wanting to lead down a path of criminal behavior, whether if it's stealing from the local grocery store or from a person downtown or whatever the case. We don't, obviously, we have intervention to hold folks accountable for engaging in criminal behavior. But the longest term strategy here in the city has always been to help people where they are and get them to build. We have other mental health concerns. Look, City of Holyoke, we have many nonprofits, organizations doing incredible work in our city. And we funded many of them through community development block grants. Even some organizations got some ARPA funding to continue that work. And you know, we're going to continue to partner with those organizations, try to address the root causes of these problems. At the same time, we need to be as proactive as possible and intervene to deter the criminal behavior from happening to begin with.
May I ask a follow-up, and this is to Chief Pratt? Are there some comments or common thread in all these killings in terms of ages, in terms of drugs, or area?
Yeah, generally speaking, in the 5 murders, they're all sort of distinct. There are really 3 that have a relationship, for lack of a better term, to sort of gang, drug, gun violence among young people. But there are dissimilarities with the 5 murders, and certainly no commonality that should concern any particular population or person in the city of Holyoke. And that includes last night's incident.
Can you give us more details on that? We're just hearing the sort of rumors at this point. What exactly happened and where?
Yeah, so it was in the downtown area. I'd have to refer to the exact street, but it was an incident with an individual that we do have some video surveillance footage of approaching an individual and using a firearm, which results in the death of that individual. Victim's identity has not been released yet by my office. And again, I need to be vague at this delicate stage as the investigation develops. But I can tell you and the public that we've made significant progress. We've been in communication with victim's family, but we're not at a stage now where I'm comfortable identifying the victim at this point. But there, at this point, should not be any ongoing concern for anybody, and the investigation is progressing. The state police and Holyoke police and some of our partners are very actively investigating at this very moment.
In your experience with ShotSpotter, how much of an effective tool is that in the community? Does it not only spot where the shots are fired, but also prevent it, giving someone pause to fire a weapon? Does it also give someone pause to fire a weapon, if they know that they're sort of being listened to?
Yeah, the second part of the question was regarding the effectiveness of ShotSpotter and what other sort of information it provides. I actually used ShotSpotter as an assistant district attorney in prosecuting cases from all over the county before I became district attorney about 8 years ago. The technology has advanced like all things, and it actually can provide the caliber of a particular firearm. The technology has gotten much better at separating out fireworks and cars backfiring, so essentially false alarms. It gives, and you can use this information at trial. There's all kinds of printouts and displays that can be produced that give you very particular information about where exactly that noise came from, how many gunshots. It can distinguish between two gunshots happening at the same time from different firearms. And it provides police almost instantaneous information or notice that there's been a gunshot. So we've had situations where police are in a matter of seconds on a scene of a gunfire incident where there's a victim who might have died. And in that instance, first responders are there very quickly to provide aid to an individual who's suffering from a gunshot wound. And it also provides that kind of instantaneous information. So sometimes arrests come right at that very moment if police are there quickly on scene. So it's a tremendous tool, again, that the city of Springfield, in my experience, and many cities across the country have used for a very long time to great effect. And I think it does have that sort of chilling impact on people who know that if I fire this gun, the police are going to find out about it in a matter of seconds. And if there's a police officer around the corner, he or she is going to be there in mere moments. So I think it does have that preventative effect to your question, sir.
And Mayor, are you?
Questions probably about Mr. McGee, who hasn't spoken yet, but my understanding as a citizen of Holyoke is that money was the problem before us not getting shots fired. Because there's some federal money and there's some other money offered, will the council leave that on the table?
So with regards to what was debated at the city council level, that has been tabled and therefore can be brought up again at the next meeting or a subsequent meeting to be acted on again. So what had transpired, just so the public knows, is there was a vote taken. There was not the required votes to approve the acceptance of that grant. Therefore, there was a reconsideration of the vote to then table it and bring it up again. That's where that one stands.
Mayor, are you willing to wait that long for the next vote?
Just to clarify, thanks. Yeah, so no, well, let me clarify. The city council, through the vote of the council, they accept any grants coming into the city. That's why the city council is involved. Currently, the question in front of them is whether or not they want to accept a grant our local police department was able to leverage through the federal government to cover 1 square mile of shot spotting. We're looking forward to implement 2 square miles, which covers 80% of where shots are reported. The first square mile is supposed to be covered through this grant. The remaining square mile, I'm looking forward to cover using available ARPA money, alternative revenue sources that are separate from any local budget, any local appropriation. Whether or not the council votes on this budget, I'm still moving forward. Their vote only defray the cost of shot spotting. Certainly we want to accept this grant. It's free money to the city of Holyoke that we can't redirect to anything else. I've heard some comments about using that money and investing it into youth. We're investing in intervention programs, youth programs. Our schools are seeing more investment this year thanks to the Student Opportunity Act. That's also helped us with our own local appropriation, contributing to that investment. We're seeing those investments are happening. We also need to invest in the tools that help us achieve greater intervention and safety for the public. This is one of them. This investment will allow us to test it out for 2 years before we start using our own local funds to cover their annual recurring costs. What we want to do is use this grant money and the available alternative revenue sources for 2 years to see the effectiveness of this program. The program proves to be effective, great. At that time, we can decide if whether or not we want to continue funding this. If it's not effective, we pivot and change course. It'd be irresponsible of me as mayor to try everything and anything available to me that's going to help improve the quality of life for our residents. And the residents in downtown Holyoke, we're talking about a part of our city that is predominantly Hispanic, Puerto Ricans, mostly low income, that deserve just as much safety as our most affluent neighborhoods in the outer skirts of our city or surrounding cities and towns. And so that's what I'm looking forward to achieve. And I am, most certainly looking forward to listen to anybody and anybody that has anything else different to say, because things evolve, we learn, we get better, we pivot where we need to, and we move forward. But that's where we are with ShotSpotter, and I'm very much looking forward to supporting this right now 100%.
ShotSpotter, mental health, investments in mental health resources, long-term solutions. What are we doing short-term on the ground today? I'll open this off.
That's my concern. What are we going to do about right now? We have a lot of long-term initiatives that, if folks can remember where Holyoke was in the 90s, today isn't terrible, but it doesn't mean that there isn't much more. We have a lot more work to do. And there are things at play, different initiatives, programs, services that are at play that are doing the important work, but what about right now? And that's what makes me lose sleep every single night. What is it can I do currently to help intervene and, prevent the next murder or prevent the next situation? And ShotSpotter is just one tool in the toolbox that can potentially help us do exactly that. As far as other initiatives, I can pass it to the chief, and he might be able to talk more about that.
Chief, sorry. What I would say to that is exactly what we've talked about. The fine men and women of the Holyoke Police Department and the state police collaborating. When something like this happens, what we can do is get on the ground and solve these murders and take those people off the street. That's what we do. We do it very well. We've done it very well with the DA's help, and we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to work with all our partners to try to curb any type of gun violence here in the city. What the ShotSpotter is going to do for us, it's going to make our men and women who already intervene when shots go off now, because they react just hearing it out their window. This is going to make them better. This is going to make the Holyoke police better at responding to gun violence. And that's what my goal is. Yes.
Sorry, she also asked, what are other things we're doing now?
I do have a follow-up.
Yeah.
Councilor Maldonado Velez mentioning comparing Holyoke police to a gang. Do you have any response to that?
I had a response. I sent that response to the council president. It's disturbing, and I'm more than willing to sit down with Councilor Velez and go over it again. What we do here every day. It's disheartening that an elected official would say that. But I have spoken my piece to the council president. He knows where I stand. I have full faith in him to help us remedy this, and so we can just move forward. We just want to move forward. We just want to do our jobs and move forward.
This is for you, police chief, and also DA. Since you're the ones who come across the murderers, do either of you think that any of these social service programs, when you're interviewing the killer, does that have any influence in that? Like, would they have not committed that crime had there been, I don't know, basketball at 4 p.m. Monday through Friday?
That's a really tough hypothetical. I think all our social programs are doing outstanding work here. What we do down at Ray Street with our intervention officers, with our mental health officers, is groundbreaking. We were ahead of the curve on that. We've been doing it long before people were crying for people to do it. So I hate to say, if we did this, then that wouldn't have happened, but we can just keep doing everything we do and then react and pivot, as the mayor said, depending on what happens.
I didn't mean to imply that the services are not doing a good job.
Right.
What I'm asking is, when you come face to face with these people who did kill somebody or other people, and you look in their eyes, do you feel like, this is who they are? They're just people who are going to kill. There's no way to talk nicely to people who kill, right? Not that you talk rude.
Homicide is a crime that is usually a crime of passion in the heat of the moment. I'd like to think anyone who really took the time to stop and think about it wouldn't do it. Could a social program have helped that person? Sure. But you can only put the help out there. Sometimes, as they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? So We have the programs, and we also have programs once people are involved in drugs and crime and gangs to help them get out of that lifestyle and get back to a healthy, productive life here in the city. So I feel that we are really touching it on every base that we can. And then when it comes down to this type of crime, we partner and do what we do, and we do it well with the state police and
Chief,
the
what are
DA's
the
office.
limitations of a reactive policing model? Madeline Velez said that the Holyoke Police job was just merely to react to crimes or situations. What's advantage or disadvantage of a reactive versus a community policing model?
Well, if that's what we are doing, then this is going to help us react a lot faster, and we're going to be that much better at it. We are reactive at times here in the city. We have a lot of calls for service, and we respond to those. As you know, we've talked about it, upwards of almost 50,000 calls a year, and we do spend a lot of time responding to calls. But we also spend a lot of time proactively trying to curb violence and other things that happen on the streets here. Even our officers out there in the daily patrol car, in between calls, are doing an unbelievable job intervening when need be.
District Attorney Gulluni, talking a bit about these 5 murders here, do we believe all 5 were targeted?
No, that's a sort of difficult question to answer. What I'll say is basically what I said in response to an earlier question. There aren't commonalities between them. We have court cases to go forward with 4, and I assume there will be a 5th case coming with yesterday's incident, and we'll let the facts play out publicly at that juncture. But again, there isn't a commonality or theme that should give rise for concern for anyone in the city right now.
DA, can you say if the shooter last night was on a motorcycle or any type of vehicle? I'm hearing some stuff.
I'm going to refrain from any comment right now in the interest of safety of our police officers and the integrity of the investigation at this point.
Mayor Garcia, I have a question for you. What is the overall message you want the people of Holyoke to know? A lot of them are expressing concerns to me personally. What do you want them to know after these 5 murders?
Just, you can certainly move forward and continue to take pride in your community, in your city, that their local government and the regional partners are working together to ensure the greater safety, their greater safety, the safety of their children and families. Holyoke is safe. We don't have people just randomly going around doing these things. Usually are, targeted and specific, but we have a very active police department and a great partner at the DA's office that are working hard every single day so that the residents of Holyoke and all around the region actually can sleep comfortably and safely. There's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes that are not always out up front, and the reason why I called this press conference is because I want them to know that. I want them to understand that there are folks that are working hard, that are ensuring your greater safety. No one's hiding anything. No one's covering it, putting anything under the rug. That you certainly have people that are working for you to ensure your safety, and the city is safe. And also to continue to take pride in their community. We have a lot of great positive things that are going on in Holyoke that I wish we can report on more often than never, than what we're doing at the moment. We have a lot of great things happening in the city, many things in the pipeline that are going to really boost the quality of life and economic development in our downtown, that we can take pride for and show off to the rest of the region in Western Mass. And when things like this happen, we have the tools that we have the resources we have to respond so that people can go forward with their lives safely and as effectively as possible. And we want to continue to invest in new tools that are available to us to continue to do that. And there's going to be more information coming forward in how we can invest to be better and improve public safety. So people are working on their behalf. You're safe, and you can continue to love and take pride of your community as you always have.
5 murders in the last how does that compare to previous years of Holyoke?
It's on the high side of average, especially now if you consider we're in September, you got another quarter or so of the year left. It obviously varies when you talk small numbers, but right now it's 5 more than we'd like, and we aim for, from a preventative standpoint, as a DA's office, and as certainly Chief Pratt would tell you. But every year, this is a little higher than average.
Is it occurring in a particular area in Holyoke, or is it? I know one was up in the Highlands, one was down by 391. Is there a particular area? At least 3 of the murders occurred. Is there sort of a neighborhood or a street or a?
No, I mean, obviously Holyoke's a relatively small place, and they're generally concentrated in the downtown area, but it's not so specific as a street or neighborhood or a particular, housing development or something like that. Not this year.
And how about some of the other communities in the district that you represent? How does Holyoke compare to I don't know, Chicopee is part of your district, and Springfield obviously, some of those numbers, but where would you rate Holyoke in terms of where we're at financially?
It's average every year now. Doing this just about 8 years, there's always going to be those anomalies in statistics and highs and lows. We've seen an unfortunate rise in violence in Chicopee, city that you mentioned, and we're working very closely with the Chicopee Police Department and our state police to stem that tide. But I think when you look at population, you look at socioeconomic issues. I think it's sort of where we expect it to be, where it is on an annual basis.
Chief, in your last number of budgets, you called for a criminal analysis or analyst for the police department. Are you still going to be pushing that in your next budget? I know you said a lot of departments have.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We're working on it. All right. So if there's no other questions, thank you everybody for your time
Thank you very
and for
much.
your attention on this.
Thank you.